So my first question to all of you, but I'd like you to be the first to answer that question, would be, where do you draw your ideas from? Is it really technology, and how does it work?
First of all, I would like to ask you to forgive me if I sometimes will speak in Russian with assistance, because some ideas take more deepness than I can do in English. So, you asked me,
where do you draw your ideas from? Is it really technology? So we're talking about technology.
It's really difficult to answer, because from my point of view, mostly it's just our life experience, and I can't say that technologies, of course, are including in our projects and very, very important part. And you can see it from our details, and especially details. But mostly we are working with interiors as with an atmosphere. The most important thing is atmosphere for us. To create something really delicate, and maybe it's first of all it's space for our clients, for people who are working with us, and maybe especially in private interior, the best way when we can see face of our client more than our face. And because of that, our technologies should be mostly high, as much as possible from my point of view, because interior now is private interior is a very important thing. It helps people to jump off our crazy pace. Our life is getting faster and faster, and maybe our private interiors is a place to be in quietness. And because of that, interiors should be really close to people. And technologies should be there. All interiors should be full of technologies, but very delicate.
Thank you. You've answered all my questions, almost. Thanks. But I'll have the same question for you, Grant. Could you tell us where do you draw your ideas from?
So my business and my approach to the interiors world is as a communicator. So we're always looking at technologies and how better to communicate with designers, how to communicate concepts, how to communicate with interior designers. And in doing so, we've learned so much about how interior designers work. And we travel across the globe attending design shows around the world, and it's very interesting to see. I remember seeing in, I think it was Milan last year, where they had built this stone pod that sat on your dining room table. And what you did was everybody put their mobile phone into this pod. It was then closed, it was stone, and the mobile phones couldn't receive any reception. And it was quite an interesting way of introducing a ritual into your life, to take technology away so that you can reconnect with people again. And I think it's very interesting to see how designers are incorporating technologies, as Oleg was saying, into interiors, but in a really subtle, delicate way, so that you don't actually know that they're there, but they really are sort of working in the background.
Thank you.
Inspiration. So we heard it could be life experience. I have a problem that I'm still pretty young and I don't have so much, so I have to look into history to learn from this, learn from other people. But mainly it's history. It's art history. It's architectural history. And when you dig deep enough, you see anything you can come up with, anything that you see around. was in some sort of in a different way, and of course because of different technological constraints it was different, but the core idea, the concept was very similar. Especially when we talk about atmospheres, there are amazing atmospheres. There were amazing atmospheres built in the last 3,000 years. This is around roughly what we kind of can, or what we have documented. So certainly history and cultural history. And maybe the second point, which is very connected to culture, is philosophy. As philosophy is a very good indicator of changing technologies. You never know if was technology first or philosophy, like was first coins and money, or was first the idea of, or was first philosophy. So we're talking about Thales from Milet or from the Phoenicians who started with coins. There's at the moment a big discussion what was first, as they found new sources. So how these ideas inspire people to come up with something new that then leads through the whole society, and of course is then also picked up by designers to react on any kind of change. So that's kind of a very broad way to get tons of inspiration from, although there's not so much that I can look back in my life.
Thank you. So we've had 3 men speak now. Jasna, what's your opinion on this?
I'm coming from a slightly different company, so we are doing real estate marketing. So talking about inspiration, I would say technology is really our inspiration, and nowadays how we are trying how to come closer to the clients and to users, let's say like that. So I would say is really thinking about the psychological impact, social environment, and depend where the project is done, and the atmosphere, the climate, and that is basically the everyday life is mostly the source of ideas and how we are shaping all images and virtual reality products. So, yeah.
Thanks. And could you please continue, because I have a question for you. And is interactive experience really becoming a necessity in the design industry?
Well, I would say, looking back, my background is in architecture. I'm an architect. So through history, as you know, architects use canvas, I would say, after paper to get closer to the clients. But now we are looking to technologies and all devices as our canvas. And necessity, I would say not yet, but as you all know, we get really used to it, to all mobile devices and gaming, movies. They are all really more interactive now than before, and we need to react fast and to keep up the pace, let's say like that. So I would say really to experience a space before you get into it or close to it, you really want to have a sense of it, to feel it. And virtual reality becomes a tool that really break that step or stepping in phase and process of design, where you really explaining the user or the potential client what the space will look like, or creating a reality of imagination that they still don't know it is going to exist. So I would say yes, it will be soon a necessity, and especially with the using units and the VR devices and everything, and there is a high level of against psychological impact and to feel of it. So it will be there soon.
Thank you. Oleg, I read your interview. We are losing the mics. Is that okay without the mic?
It is.
Okay, thank you. So I was reading your interview and I found this thought. New technology livens up old styles. What do you mean by that? And how?
Okay, I meant from my point of view, since middle of 90s, maybe around 20 years ago, when we found deconstructivism and high tech, both of these styles. Honestly, I don't like, and I don't know how to use it in interiors in general. We can see only the way it's like a spiral way. When we can see most popular styles, I mean Art Deco and Classicism, which are returning in spiral way, step by step, but in every step it's in more high technology image. And I can see how technologies push these styles to be in new image.
But what are we experiencing right now?
For example, in our interiors, speaking about our interiors, we can use a lot of new technology things as art objects, which I think, especially in Russia, you know, after the Soviet Union, where there was no design at all, it's very short way, and I can say that very fast. And we studied how to use these new technologies, especially in metal and glass, working with French masters, with really cool foreigners. We are studying, and I can see how technologies press us forward.
Thank you. Thank you. You're still here. Thank you. So it's a big question. I'm not sure who's going to be the first to answer, but well, I have it. I just put it very simply: 3D printing or handmade. How do you see the future of craftsmanship in 21st century?
Well, I saw something very interesting last week at Dubai Design Week, and it was these Dutch craftsmen who have been for years and years and years hand-making these gorgeous clay vessels, probably about this tall, each selling for thousands of euros each, mostly custom work. And a couple of years ago they started experimenting with 3D printing, and they've now landed up building their own 3D printers to be able to print in the way that they want something to be printed. And so they've now landed up with a business selling 3D printers, as well as printing incredible clay vessel vases that are just stunning. And they're finding more intricate ways of creating vases and vessels and products by developing the 3D printer. So it's very interesting to see how these two designers have gone and looked at it. Okay, we don't want to be limited by technology. Actually, we want to work on the technology so that we can create a better product. So it was very interesting to speak to them about how they're sort of both, looking at both sides of the equation to enhance their work, which is quite unique.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the moment when I buy a piece of art somewhere. Is it still important for the person who's buying the piece of art that it's handmade, or it's made by a machine or a 3D printer?
Of course, I think it's still important.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who prefer handmade.
Thank you.
I would say it's a particular signage or feel of it. So when it's handmade, so it's a different approach, and it is much, let's say, more appreciated than.
Thanks. And I'd like to ask you about this piece of art, because when I look at it, I see that it's a piece of art. And you know, in acting, so I'm an actor, in acting, people usually tend to think that it's a myth, it's kind of a magic, you know, that they forget that there's some technique in acting, some technique. And when I see this piece of art, I have a question. Is it really magic or it's technology? Where was the source?
Very difficult to answer.
I know.
Especially about our product, which...
Could you please tell us about the history of this?
My main idea was to create something really technological, and I was thinking, I like these glass balls in general, but usually it used to be as a bowl with empty space inside, and to put lamp inside, and so on. Yes, it's typical normal way to create. But I decided, why don't we use the solid balls and to put lamp outside and to have a special reflex. And it was the first idea. But finally, I think it's very Art Deco thing when we speak about shape. But with this technology process, it's something really contemporary.
Okay, thank you. I know it was a cooperation with Preciosa.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how was it working with that, with creating these pieces of art from your point of view?
From what I know, because I wasn't fully involved in this, is that we got very precise and very awesome shop drawings, which we are not used to from designers, because usually designers, they come up with a sketch, then they say I want it like this, then you 3D model it, and they say but it's not as I want it, but it's the sketch, but then do it different, that it looks good, so then our design team does it different to look good, and then you engineer it. And here what I think it is maybe special about this cooperation is that it was solved into the very detail from the designer's point of view, and this is why you mentioned also in the very beginning that detail is maybe a source of inspiration, so this is very much visible in here. And although I started to say that philosophy and history is my source of inspiration, I'm very much computer guy. I am a computer scientist from my background, architect and computer scientist, so I'm very much into this computer stuff and drawings, and so I appreciate really also the aesthetics of a nice shop drawing. So this is something very unusual to see, that a designer is able to think to construct something and not just to state a vision. So that was, if you ask me what was special about it, that was maybe this is for sure the most special fact about this cooperation.
Thank you.
And what kind of technology are you mostly interested in right now? I know, is it digital or is it...
It's quite interesting because, I'm all about digital. So, my whole business is online. We do a lot of online things for our clients and designers. And it's the way that what I'm finding fascinating in the interior design world at the moment is the way that people are starting to communicate digitally. So it's taking these ideas and communicating not only to your client but to a wider audience. Or, we just launched a show house, the first UK show house a couple of weeks ago here in London. And yesterday and today we had a company in each room that's doing a 3D scan of every room to then put online so that we can then show a much broader audience after the house closes, So it's available globally for everyone to see what the designers have actually created in these two show houses. And I think it's about communicating ideas. For me, it's all about using digital technologies and things like video and photography, and taking concepts like this and drawing really intricate 3D models and virtual reality, and really putting all of this together and creating a new way to communicate that I think for designers is really exciting, because you don't have to communicate in words anymore. You can communicate in how you're actually seeing and perceiving things, which is real images, real spaces, and virtual reality has progressed so much that, when you put those goggles on and you go into a space that's been designed, you're starting to feel the atmosphere because of the detail that's in there, and the samples are, at your hands, ready to touch. So that's what I'm really finding exciting and interesting at the moment.
Thank you.
It's speeding up the process. That's the thing. Speeding up the process, and as I mentioned, it's really we are all into it. It's inevitable that the technology is not just is it like physically made or is it this or that, but it's really like to follow how we are evolving as a human species, and then just to be there, not just to use it for a car industry or sports, but yes, to help also in interior design and to develop faster ideas and to shape them up, to see, to be able really to maybe as well understand them better, the process, and to change them to suit better. So.
Thank you. And how do you see the future? Shall we, or will we still need the creator at some point?
Well, absolutely.
Or a machine could be the creator?
No.
Why is
I
that?
don't think a machine is ever going to be able to connect with, how we feel when we sit on a sofa, and how, you and I, we might walk into a shop together and like two different things. A machine's never going to really. Maybe it will, who knows, but I hope not. But a machine is, a machine can say to you, yes, this is going to be comfortable, but there's always something different. Why are there so many products out there? Because we all want something different. We all want something, and I think, working with incredible creators and architects and craftsmen help the average person just expand their knowledge. So I do believe there's always going to be a space for creators and designers. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course, and speaking about that, working with our clients, sometimes I feel that I'm mostly psychologist, not architect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For machine, it is impossible to work with people.
May I maybe intervene? In the year 75, there was the title of the Times magazine, which stated "The End of the Architect." It was based on a conference that unveiled 200 new sketches from Frank Lloyd Wright. And after the conference, everybody was super amazed. Somebody found 200 new sketches by this architect master. And 2 months later, the scientists who presented this, what they found, said that it was actually not his sketches, but it was computer-generated plans. But none of the art historians could really identify it's not Frank Lloyd Wright's work. So, long story short, we already know for 30 years how to generate plans based on architect's signature style. Back then it was called shape grammar. It was done in an algorithmic handcrafted way. So the people were writing 200 rules how to design if an angle, the basic idea was not to design the house, but actually the representation of the house, which is a plan. So you write a set of rules how to draw a plan, and the result is then the representation of a house, which looks very much from the hand from Frank Lloyd Wright. This you can recreate in present times with computers, and this is actually also what is happening. Not only in a very linear way as a shape grammar thing, a set of rules which is reacting one after the other, but with more computation power you can use more advanced or even low-level artificial intelligent ideas like genetic algorithms that create you within 20 seconds 200 design options. And this is already used today. On the one hand, the government of the United States is using this to create prisons, for instance, to create. There are companies specializing on optimizing ground plans of hospitals because of shortest paths between stations. The same like prisons. Of course, we have the panopticon from 200 years ago, and a similar idea, but more like complex on a rectangular ground plan to manipulate the structure of the prison that people, although they get out of the cell, they cannot escape within a certain amount of time. So this you can calculate because of longest path. Big shopping malls or big retail stores, they don't design their layouts anymore. They have a computer program to locate which product to place next to which product. Usually it's not the product that you need, this is what is next to it, but you have to it's basically you have a set of you have a profile of customers, and different profiles are coming for different products, and these products are dislocated so that you have to pass by a lot of products which you didn't came for but you might need, which increases sales. Just to give you a set of ideas like where a designer is not needed anymore. Okay, you could say in residential that's not the case. Also not true, because 2 years ago a Swiss science group called Kaiserswerth from the ETH Zurich, they started participating anonymously in architectural competitions for social housing. And last year they even won a project based on a computer-generated plan design, and the jury didn't know about this, so they selected this to be the winning design for a social housing project. Okay, social housing, again, it was based on the rules how the Swiss government is funding social housing projects. So this is again a set of rules that can be translated into an optimized plan. I don't want to say it's good, but this is already working out there. There are huge companies, huge corporate companies who work precisely on large-scale projects, on computerizing, automizing this kind of decision making. There's even star architects who try to define their own style through an algorithm so that they don't need 300 people to draw for them, but just like a bunch of computers to create the plans based on their signature style. So they're not designing anymore, they're designing the algorithms, how the algorithms should then design the house, which is very interesting. And this sounds really like utopia, but it's happening. Not that it's bad. Again, like I don't want to say there will be no interior designers in 10 years, but this is certainly, this is maybe the stage in time that we are working, or which is like state of the art at the moment, which will change. Maybe the designers won't work anymore on less interesting projects, certainly maybe not hospitality projects, because the level of control in a computer-generated ground plan is more effective based on the analysis. There are different ways of how to analyze it. Actually, yeah. Could talk to long about this, but there is like a lot of questions.
So the interior design sector is really big right now. So could you tell us, Graham, so it's a question for you, could you tell us how has it happened, how has this sector grown so big?
I think, how's it? I think there's a few ways to answer that. I think the interior design sector itself, and my clients are mostly in the luxury interior design sector and architects. And what we're finding is that over the last few years, the market has gotten a little bit smaller, and designers are definitely feeling pressure in the market. There's definite designers are starting to look abroad for more work. And finally, and I think it's a good thing, designers are starting to look at technology and ways in which they can, implement technology into their firms to help streamline their processes, to help, give better drawings to clients. And I think that's a good thing. I think the luxury interiors sector is pretty old-fashioned when you look at how they operate. You go into these big firms. One in particular, has an enormous office in central London. You go in there and they're still hand-drawn. I mean, they're still hand-drawing, it then gets sent to somewhere to be put onto CAD or whatever. But a lot of the processes are still very old-fashioned, and these are big brand name interior designers here in London. So I think this push, this stress that designers are feeling at the moment, design firms are feeling at the moment, especially in the UK, which is making them look abroad, is a really good thing, because they're starting to look at how design firms abroad are using technology, how it's streamlining their business. What is the new interior design business model? Designers started partnering with architects and then started bringing out product, all to try and create bigger margins on both sides of their sort of service of interior design. But I think they've realised that they need to start streamlining their businesses, and that means looking to technology to help them doing that, and that's finally starting to happen. Yeah.
Thank you. So, do you have any questions, please? If you have any, just raise your hand or anything, so I can see that. Everything's clear so far? Okay.
Maybe a short
you have a question, nice!
Yeah, to the virtual reality input from residential markets. I think we're still very limited with the computer capacity, and this is the biggest problem at the moment. So until we have real-time ray tracing, so that we can really have photorealistic renderings computed at the time when I decide which way to go, until then it won't really be a game changer. So we will need 5 to 10 years to have quantum computer chips, quantum computers, to really process this. Once this is possible, so this might be really a game changer, not only in terms of architectural marketing, but in general game industry and maybe also entertainment industry. But yeah, there's a big downside to this. Even utopian literature from the 80s is already predicting that this could be end of the world. I don't want to say this, but in general, at the moment we are capped by the capacity of computers and of chip technology, because we cannot compute the images in a quality that they are really believable. So at the moment it's still like watching a cartoon. People still don't feel comfortable with identifying in a cartoon home. This is at least what I really like, what I heard from these conferences where they are discussing this on a performance level.
I would also add to that I think as you said, 5-10 years when we have quantum machines, it will be the time that we will educate, I would say, general public, and they will get used to it, how to what to expect and how to ask for more. And that's the challenge that we will going to face in a decade for sure.
Thank you. Oleg, are you waiting for quantum computers? Do you have any problems with computer capacity? Do you still draw?
Speaking about me, no.
Do you still draw?
No. I'm drawing some first sketches and continue with programs, and then give it to our 3D visualization department, and they create everything.
So your clients see 3D?
Correct. Of course, they really can't understand anything without this 3D visualization.
Okay, thank you.
So today we talked really pretty much about design, art, and technology, right? And so we are saying in general term, we are saying that art, technology really helps to make art bring alive, right? Can it be other way around? I mean, can technology really inspire for something artistic, something new?
I'm absolutely sure, yes. Because
is these terms are complementary, or one goes up to the other
Yeah.
or other way around.
When you think of Michael, Michael, he mentioned the entertainment world, architecture, design, and I was in it for 5 years and building theaters and shows for the theaters, and it's absolutely amazing how technology actually brings the new ideas, and how, I mean, the thing is that it's not only putting something in a 3D, but it's really using the holograms, using all the available devices out there that the people are just building it and using it in the film industry. And my impression is really that the design and interior architecture is becoming like a gaming more than just design, because we all want to have fun, to enjoy, to have those kind of excitement. So as you said, the psychological impact, and it's much much more present than just the knowledge how you design it. And especially nowadays you have fashion designers building the buildings, and before it's only like architects. So it's changing. The design is really now, I think, shaping in that more human human way of really being part of the society, because everyone is creator. So why do you need to have particular education and then only to be able to do it? And it's the same with the technology, so you can use it and just
so basically you say that technology may enable everyone to be designers.
exactly, yeah. You have now, I mean, I have a nephew's 10 years old, and he's already building, because the softwares are so approachable, they're there, they are lighter and lighter to learn, let's say easier. And I think the generation now who are born, let's say before 10, they have 10 years. In 10 years' time, when we educate our generation better, so for them it will be really like, what is the next? What is that next level? And technology will be that it as well will evaluate with them, because they will be the drive for the society. Like, I want to build this in this way and that way. And it's absolutely, I think it's. When you think artificial intelligence, does it help because everything is dehumanized? But on the other side, yes, maybe for modular designs, we could use machines and for like massive production, but still we will need the human touch, and each client needs that contact. We need the contact. So machines will be there, but we will be the first thing we will.
Thank you.
Well, you already kind of answered half of the question that I had in mind. I'm here today with my daughter. She's 19 and she's a student in a design college, Kensington Chelsea College, and she's studying interior design first year. So we came because we want to know more. It would be interesting to listen to your talk. So my question is, so what would be your advice for a new student to put emphasis at more on like classical, traditional way of drawing or more technology, where now we're talking about 5-10 years future, going into future. So what's the advice for a young generation who is studying this subject now to put emphasis at mostly? So the classical way, or general classical way, the way how you started, or is it actually technology that needs to be more emphasis at?
Good question. Yes, maybe I'm really old-fashioned, but from my point of view, education, convention styles, to know history of art, to know all of this is the most important way. Technologies are everywhere around, and there is no way not to use computers, new programs, technologies. But you can use these programs the best way only if you know this history, all styles, all necessary things.
So you say
from ancient world until this
so
day.
it's actually being able to draw yourself first, and then use the technology.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
I want to add.
Sure.
I want to add to that. Sorry, did I interrupt you? Do you want to say more?
No.
So, as I said, I'm coming from an architecture background, so I think it's really important that you learn what is your language. So to come to your language in design, which means you need first to understand the history, to understand the line, why something is, so the reason why someone done that, and the machines technology. Yeah, the technological world is just to help you to come faster to it. But if you, for example, want to draw a paint on iPad, before you get a pencil and draw it. It won't be you, it will be something that is in between. So to be able to come to your language in no time and use the technology in the right way, yes, you need to go through to that classical, let's say, way of doing it. Or maybe just faster, not 10 years, a year.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We discussed the technologies, how they help you in your daily job, but we haven't actually discussed the tech in interiors. So, in your latest project, have you used any hardware installed or used in your projects?
In our projects, how to say it in English? Maybe is there a word? Clever house. It's smart technologies. Yes, we are using it a lot, and it's getting better and better. And new technologies give us possibility to better to hide. For example, TV, not to use special consoles for technique. We can hide these TV panels. It's very important for us. It's from my traditional view. This is the main thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. More questions?
My question to Michael. I know your company, reputation, it's a big company. Do you prefer working on one single masterpiece project or making mass market technology speaking?
From technology speaking, our production is not, the stage of the production at the moment is not there for mass production. That's based on the fact of the last 20 years that we reduced the mass products. We consider mass products like 50 pieces. And we don't do much of them. So it switched a lot to artisan's workshop, to a huge one, to maybe too big to handle in certain ways, because having like 500 artisans under one roof, this creates a lot of trouble because of the ego, because of a lot of other issues. So definitely, in terms of like, well, if you ask me what are we doing, we are certainly not doing mass production, and we even don't want to do this. Unless like this one is now sold 500 times this week, so we have to adapt.
Thank you. More questions?
No, just from view, I'm not an interior designer, but looking outwards onto the way that you design, has the way that you design homes, residential homes, has it changed because of the use of technology such as televisions, different levels of variety, like you have now radiators, conceal? Have you changed your style of actually designing to accommodate the modern tastes? You know, I've been to like new builds and they don't have the same style as you're showing here. Do you have to adapt to that, or have you seen ways of adapting to that sort of way of styling? Have you understand the question? So you're very traditional, but a lot of the new builds now are very modern and they expect a certain style of furnishing. TVs are like every house has a TV with so many rooms. Do you accommodate for that sort of styling? How do you do that?
Oh, differently. Differently.
Because the younger generation, that's what they like now. I mean, I've got teenagers, and that's what they want to move into a house. That's what they want. They don't want the traditional that much. They're introducing new styles and expect everything to be sleek and very, very polished and high tech.
Yes, but I don't know. We are working with mostly with big families, and usually with parents who create spaces for their children themselves, with our assistance, of course. And I don't know. My experience gives me a way to think that we are from year to year getting older and older. We are changing our tastes, and I know that children who prefer something very technological, something very very contemporary, later will come to maybe not all, but mostly to this traditional ideas and ways. Something like that.
So I would add to that the design depends on the client. So there is variety, there are different approaches, and if someone wants to have more contemporary design, then it will approach the designer who is more into that language. So it's really the technology is not changing, I think, the environment in that way. It's really we have the taste through history, different tastes, and now you have it as well. So it's really what do you want, and you can find one who is really using that language. And that's why in education it's really needing that you went through all those languages, and then you choose which one will be appealing more to you. So.
Please. What are any future tendencies or fashion stuff you forecast? If you could forecast anything, is there anything particular that you can say that's kind of like trend coming out?
Time to forecast.
With technologies. Oh my goodness. Well, it was quite interesting. So just referring back to the show house that we did, I picked up some interesting things that I saw there that designers were doing. So there was this wallpaper that had LEDs built into it. And that was quite interesting because you could control the lighting in a new way by having it on the wall and not sort of around. It was quite subtle. And also they were just touching on art. You know, there was a big digital art screen, and they'd worked with a digital art curator who works out of Los Angeles, and he curated the digital art that was going on this screen, and that was quite interesting. And the screens, even though they weren't turned on to do this, but they're actually interactive screens, and so when the art is up on the screen doing what it does, the screen actually interacts with bodies and humans that are in the space, which was fascinating when we saw it happening, because now all of a sudden the art becomes part of you and it draws you in, and there's this conversation between digital and you. And you know, one of the pieces of digital art that was up there was Jay-Z was featuring in it, and then all of a sudden you've kind of got, you know, this interaction between this flat screen and Jay-Z on it and you in the space, and it was very interesting. So I think, you know, technology, the basics like heating, you know, TVs and all those sort of basic equipment is disappearing into the fabric of the building, but it's entertainment that's popping out. You know, the walls are going to start entertaining you, the walls are going to start lighting up and, you know, doing interesting things. So I think technology in general is going to be seen when you see technology, it's going to be there to entertain you, probably. And the sort of basic, human needs, heating, lighting, water, all of that is going to be taken care of very quietly and discreetly, which the designers are already doing. So that's what I see.
Completely opposite.
Oh, good.
Completely opposite. No, there's a lot of thoughts to this. If you see what you accept today in your house and you consider and you compare it to your car, you would never, you still have a normal key. You have a switch where you turn on the light. And I think it's good as it is. Not because I'm blocking technology, but technology is changing so rapidly. So if I build it into my house and then the app isn't working on the new iPhone anymore, so half of the house is not working or not the way I want. And there are these different speeds of our lives, and the home is still the slowest speed, or the private space, and it's a big effect on privacy to let technology in. And I'm already sick of 2 phones beeping all night because we work all over the world. So the guys from China are calling very late, and US is calling very early. And I do need another LED wallpaper and whatever more entertainment. We're entertained like crazy. Everybody is going to these parties where you said it just before, where you have this big stone pot and you put the phones in there to have a proper conversation. Yeah. My sister lives in LA and they go on the weekends to parties where they at the entrance they put all their phones in there, and then for 2 days they're disconnected. She's announcing this, hey, don't worry, I'm not online the next 2 days. Why should I worry? But I think that this house is still a protection, and we are maybe unconsciously still fighting for this protection, because there's a lot of technology that could be there but is not. I don't know why. Everything that you expect from a car could be in a house. Yeah. In a car, you have touch screens, you have seat heating, you have distance control for you don't need the key to pull it out to open. If I go to the car, it adjusts the seat to my position. If my business partner goes to the car, it adapts the seat to his position. All of this you could have in your house, but you don't have it. It's actually out there. Maybe you're too lazy to implement it, but I wouldn't like to have it, because in 2 years there's an upgrade and I forget to upgrade it. Or again, as I said, there are chandeliers you can control with your iPhone, but they were designed when there was the iPhone 5 or 4, and maybe the developer forgot to update it for iPhone 10. And what about in 2 years and you bought the chandelier for €200? I really like this. We live in a world of different speeds, and I really like this low speed in my house to keep me away from all this distraction, from all this entertainment that I'm really feel like a victim of entertainment out there. And I think this is and this may be bridging also to what Oleg said in the beginning, when he said he doesn't feel as much as an architect as a psychologist. And this is what I was missing on my comments about artificial intelligence designing spaces. People sometimes think they know what they want, but then architects and interior designers' task is actually to figure out what they want, or tell them what they want, to say it in the Apple way. But to give a very, very brief specific example from my personal experience as an architect was, we're designing a house for a family, and they exactly knew what they want. They want the staircase right next to the entrance, so that when the parents are watching TV in the evening, they are not distracted by the kids coming home and so on. And then we asked her, are you serious? You don't want to, the kids are now 6, But when the daughter is 16 on the first date, you're watching TV, and you hear she's coming, so you know she's, then say, yeah, we know she's fine, yeah, but, and then ask, yeah, but you don't see the face? Like, what is if she's crying? You just hear she closed the door, she's running up and crying all night at home, because she had a bad time. And why not placing the staircase next to the TV, or like into the living room, that every time she's coming home, she has to pass your field of view, so there is an interaction, and you can talk to her or not, but at least there is the option to do so.
Yeah.
Or to have the corridor on the first floor open to the living room, so that every time the boy goes to the toilet, you see, okay, he's living, and he's maybe, again, like he's super cheered up, and he's super... Architecture is there to allow interaction and not block interaction. And this is something a client doesn't know because he does not know the power of space and architecture of our profession. We are studying this for 10 years, we're working for 30 years, and then we start to be somehow good architects. This is what you said about life experience. And this incorporating into a computer program is pretty heavy. It's possible, but then you have to persuade the guy who wants to build the house that he wants this kind of quality, although he doesn't even know that this quality exists. And this is why I totally agree with you when you said that you feel like a psychologist, and this human interaction is extremely needed. And this is also, for me, the reason why we know how to design awesome buildings by computers from the 70s, as I said before, but still people don't want it the same, like maybe as they don't want all the smart homes that are possible out there, and you can get them for Christmas, but next year you will get the upgrade. And this is, it's hard that, I think it's hard to accept this part of technology as part of your home. Maybe this is very old-fashioned, but I'm kind of living, I'm working for a traditional gender company, being a computer technologist. But I really love this contradiction.
By the way, you remind me of a funny situation. I had, we made 3D visualization for one of our clients, and of his living room, and he was watching two pictures during 2 minutes and said, very strange. I definitely don't like everything I see at the picture. He spoke about sofa, lighting, color of floor, color of walls, but finally he said, but I like this interior, okay, I agree. And it's speaking about clients' imagination of what they want and what they want in reality, and how important to find it is inside.
Thank you. So I think, yeah.